Welcome back.
Welcome back. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
I thought we would talk about something that I don't think is very fun, but is necessary.
Sounds good. So far.
I thought we'd talk about financial stress
Oh.
as it's related to cancer.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's just kind of one of those things that just doesn't really get talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also kind of leads with a you should just be happy you're alive sort of thing for me.
Okay.
You know, which I think everybody that's been diagnosed with cancer is probably more grateful than the average person
I agree.
to be alive, right?
Yes.
But what cancer can do financially is devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Especially here in the United States. I don't know what I hope there's better systems.
Oh, there are. Yeah.
Somewhere.
For sure.
But it's really a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I shouldn't say especially. I know that it was definitely a challenge when we were so young. Now, I guess maybe some of the things that were good was that we were used to living on not a lot at that time, right?
Yep.
But do you have any thoughts initially?
Just it really obviously depends on in the United States. A lot of it depends on insurance. So, you can have a great job and still continuing to work even during treatment and stuff like that. If your insurance is not good, it's going to overwhelm pretty much every job and the money you make in any job in this country. Mm-hmm. Now, even with good insurance, though, in most cases, especially with metastatic cancer, most people are not working during that time. Now, there's exceptions, but most people are not. So now you're taking a one-income family to 0 or a two-income family to 1. And just that in itself is, even if you can just pay the bills, it puts a high stress on everything else.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking about, too, that, I think it's also this overwhelming thought of, how do we get through this, right? But I don't want to ask for too much, or I don't, even not knowing what your options are, or feeling like you, I don't want to, are asking for handouts if you do look into options that might be available for you,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we oftentimes just let people just get by, right? Instead of saying how can we really support or help during this time?
Are you talking about friends?
Not just friends, but I was thinking about looking, I think first we just have to acknowledge the fact that metastatic cancer, all cancers, they're expensive. And your income takes a big hit for the most part. I get it. Some people can go to work, but things change, and you have expenses that you wouldn't normally have. You have loss of hours a lot of times. You have all sorts of things going on, right? So then it's kind of well, how do we then help people get through it a little bit better? And one of the things I was thinking about is again, even as a young person, I didn't even really know anything. I happen to have short-term disability and long-term disability, which is great. Look into those things. Are they available? Do you have them? And what really do they do? I feel like sometimes it's kind of oh yeah, you do have that, and I suppose you could use it. Mm-hmm. It's like sometimes the stuff we just want to keep it a secret or something.
Yeah. But even with disability, it's not what you get paid normally.
No, not at all.
So that certainly helped us when we were going through that, when you weren't working. That kept us afloat, basically.
Right.
But it was just afloat. Now, like you said before, we weren't making much money before that, so it was we're still broke.
Well, it right, but then when you look into that. So I had disability through my insurance because I was employed through my employer is what I should say. But then I applied for Social Security disability, which I was approved for in the United States is a 6-month waiting period, which is just insane.
That's stupid
for breast cancer. So you're supposed to, I don't know, most people would be so broke by the time they got to 6 months that you'd be back to work because that's all you can do. The whole system is terrible with that, right? But even trying to figure out, like, what other ways can you be helped in terms of, just getting through. So I think we do sometimes have to rely on friends and family, for sure.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's family, coming in and helping financially or maybe not financially, but doing things that you would normally pay for, them picking up the slack there just to make up for that lost income or,
Yeah.
friends. I mean, I don't know, in our experience that there was no financial help from friends.
Right.
We got like some gas cards, which was cool.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff to help because we were driving a ton of miles. But yeah, maybe that does happen other places.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's GoFundMes and things like that to assist people who are going through, or somebody might throw a fundraiser, a benefit for them, and those certainly help.
Yeah.
But if you're making $80,000 a year, I don't think a benefit's gonna cover that.
Right. Well, and the other thing that doesn't get covered is the loss of income over the years, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's we have talked about that a little bit before too. Just that, like, from a career standpoint, if you were anticipating that you would go, on a steady increase throughout the years and acquire more retirement or all of that kind of stuff, it really halts that quite, severely. So
for sure.
I don't know what the answer is to that, but I know there are some. So there's a nonprofit called the Pink Fund, which pays bills and does. They actually pay bills. Like that's really helpful. I mean, I know also if you get approved for disability, you can you should check if you have student loans and you should call everybody, call anybody that you might owe money to and ask them if there's any sort of way that they can work with you in that respect, right? Rather than just getting behind on
a lot of those people will defer it for a while.
Yeah.
But you got to communicate with them or have a point person on your team.
Yes. And
that will do that for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I don't think that's unusual that some of the loans and stuff like that can be deferred for a while.
Yeah, I agree. So I just think that it is one of those things that we don't talk about much, but we probably should talk about sometimes. So let's talk about other stressors besides just financial stuff. I think there's also just a tremendous amount of anxiety and fear about the future, right? And I was thinking about, I think, of course, we're all individuals, so we all handle that differently. For some people, it's really helpful. I know for me in particular, I was concerned that Sydney wouldn't know me because she was so young. So it was really helpful for me to do some writing to her. Some people do other things like that. But I think I sort of feel like there's kind of a fine line with that, like not to go down that road as if it's going to happen, right? But just more of a just in case sort of policy.
Yeah, it's very similar to, your career path.
Yeah.
Your career path is rising and you're gaining years and wherever you are and stuff, and then it goes to zero.
Yeah.
Because you're off. Now, it might go back, but is it going to start in the same place? Obviously, you have a gap of those years. It's the same thing when you're talking about that. Is you don't necessarily want to make long-term plans in your life. Well, maybe some people do. I don't know. We didn't do that necessarily. because you have this just complete and utter uncertainty
Yeah.
while you're in treatment
Yeah.
on is this going to work or not. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what the results are if it doesn't, and that's very scary. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole fear of the unknown is just so difficult, right? And I do feel like it was, for me, that was a time that, especially early on, when a lot of people would ask me kind of like what to expect. And of course, I knew that there was nothing, I didn't know that anything good would happen, right? So it was easier for me just to kind of stay away from a lot of people at that time too, because I couldn't kind of take on their stress and worry about the future as well as my own.
Yeah.
So,
When do you think that started to change?
oh, I don't know. I think it always helps to have some scans under your belt to feel better about things.
Mm-hmm.
I think even like
So good results.
good
just
results.
equate to
I
that.
think, yeah. I mean, longevity on meds helps, or even like, I mean, I switched meds couple times before I got on Faslodex, and even that, for it to feel like, okay, there's still another little solution here and it's still tolerable, right? Like, all of that kind of thing was always like, okay, I can handle this too,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Or,
Right.
I think those types of things definitely help me.
I mean, and in our case, we considered adopting.
Yeah.
Not too long after
No,
treatment.
really, really soon after my initial treatment, right?
Yeah. So that was a big, obviously, step in the direction of, okay, you're going to be around.
Yeah.
And we just still didn't know.
No.
I mean, it wasn't, we certainly didn't have the feelings right now. We didn't have that. I don't know when the process started after you had been diagnosed, for example.
Yeah.
Or after treatment. I mean,
After my initial treatment, it was not. We were talking, I remember that my bone marrow transplant doctor wrote me a letter, and I believe she stated it in days how long I was out from a transplant. So
Okay.
I don't think it was even a full year out from that. So, I mean, I think with that, like, we also just really focused on your good health and
No,
my
I get
positive.
that, but I don't think you would even have really gone forward to that if you were still in that questioned mindset.
I agree with that. I think I wasn't at that point. I had good results. Right? Things had been going well for us. And so I wasn't as fearful at the time about what was coming. I wasn't feeling like I felt like I was getting stronger, not, going backwards, I guess.
So looking back at that time for us, it was, I mean, that was the beginning of our kind of YOLO attitude is, hey, you only live once and we don't know how long we got, and we're going to live it to the full extent, and we're going to press forward, and we're going to make financial decisions and life decisions as if we don't know.
Right.
And we've been doing that since then, and it's worked out good for us. That's not to say we don't work hard, because we do. We work our asses off, but
and that it's not stressful sometimes, but because it is.
Mm-hmm. It's much more stressful for you than me.
Yeah.
In those situations, that's just true. But yeah, it definitely can be stressful financially, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think now as we look at, like, this is, I think part of it is, like, we look at ourselves in our 50s and our friends are starting to retire and things like that. And I think there's a little bit of me feeling like, oh, we didn't prepare well, or we didn't do the things we should have done. But honestly, when I also
have
think
that chance.
That's exactly right.
And I tell people that, I tell my colleagues that who kind of get on me a little bit for decisions that I didn't do.
Yeah.
And they did do. And I explained to them, listen, in my 20s, when you guys were all doing this, I was fighting to make a house payment. I was driving piece of crap cars till I was 50 years old. I was doing all of that not because I wanted to, because that was the cards played.
Right.
So there was no extra
Right.
money
So,
to
but
put
that's,
away.
I guess, even to talk about this, it's like we judge other people as if we did something wrong, right? It is the hand we were dealt.
Yeah.
You know.
And I have no problem with what. And what does that mean? They're retiring now, and I'm going to retire in 8 years or so.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
To be able to have lived our life the way we have.
Yeah.
I am absolutely, I would have hands down been able to go on vacation every year and do that and not put that money away into retirement, which some people would say I should have done that.
Yeah.
Why? So I'm old and can go on vacation?
Right.
F that. You know what? No way.
Well,
and our
and
family
also,
got to go on some awesome vacations and do all of that stuff.
Because we were very focused on making memories.
Yes.
And
exactly.
getting, and again, just getting by. We've never had tons of extra income where it's like, what are we going to do with this, right?
No.
It's always like, okay, this is going to go to this.
Yeah.
And, we're going to figure it out. But I just think there's a huge undertone to, well, why aren't you in a better position? And it's like, sometimes from people, I don't mean us in general. I just mean in, like the greater world.
Sure.
And we're not, because at 26, our life got turned absolutely upside down.
Yep.
And
it's just you have to pick the path that fits you, your personality, your circumstances, all of that stuff, and screw everybody else. I mean, that's your cards, and
right,
and that's how you have to do it.
Yeah, and that's how I feel very much about.
I think there's also a rush to retire, and I don't understand it.
Okay.
I don't understand this rush to what? Do nothing?
Right.
What?
Well, and I'll be honest. I'm so grateful for the time that we've had in the last 25 years of this cancer, the time that I had at home with Sydney and home with our kids and these kind of things where it's like, yep, you're right. We weren't able to put away as much money at that time.
No.
And honestly, just for my health, I did not feel confident in being pulled in a lot of directions. I knew that I had to put my own, more than even my mental health of I can do this,
right.
And it's not overwhelming for me. Mm-hmm. So that's what was always the driving force for me, I think, and you were always very supportive of that. So you're right. It makes your life, our lives, were the way we wanted it, but it's not necessarily how you might get told you should be doing it, right?
No. And we've always chose time over money.
Yes.
Both in our careers. Honestly, you could have made a lot more money in the occupational therapy field by not working in the schools.
Yes.
You chose lesser money to do that so we could have time together and do it. We've always chose time over money. And other people don't, and that is perfectly great for them.
Yes.
That's just not who we are, and
and the cancer reinforced that.
It absolutely did. It made us at a very young age go, what is important, and how are we going to do this?
Right.
So
yeah, how to prioritize.
Yeah.
I guess I just wanted to talk about this a little bit today because I know you guys feel financial stress too.
Yeah.
I know you do, and I feel like a lot of times it just doesn't get talked about. Or you feel guilty, or you feel like you're doing something wrong. You're not doing something wrong. You got handed a really crappy hand. Mm-hmm. Like this is, you know what I mean? And you can try to make the best of it, but sometimes you also just have to make decisions to live in the best, for you, for your family, that's why you want to be here, is to be with the people you love. And some of that means being with them in a way that makes memories and does all of those things. It's certainly not to go to work. We all know that it's not to go to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. We also, I think both of us lost a parent in their early 70s. My dad had barely retired when he was diagnosed. Yeah. Like we're just not going to wait for tomorrow for things, right? We're not going to put those off. But anyway, I thought because this was a little stressful, I would maybe mention a few things that I found cancer-wise that are helpful.
Oh, okay.
Just a few of my, I don't want to say favorite things, but again, cancer, like it messes with you. So this is a long time ago, but I lost my eyebrows during chemotherapy. Like in the beginning, my first month into cancer, my eyebrows, I do have hair, but it's just not dark. It's never been dark anymore. So it's probably been 6 or 7 years ago, I had my eyebrows like tattooed, microbladed. And you guys, what a game changer that has been. It's so funny that I just felt like, oh my goodness, one of the things that I would always be, like putting on a brow, something, just because I felt like it framed my face better. And again, in the water, things like that, it's like it just never stayed on. And then I learned about like tattooing or microblading, and I was like, what a game changer. Mm-hmm. So that's one of my cool things that I like.
I want to go back and look at a picture of you.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember you not.
I mean, they were there, but they were just
maybe you always put stuff on them?
I did a lot of times.
Yeah.
I know. You're not the most observant guy in the world, let's be honest. Which is fine.
That's true.
It's fine with me. I don't care. Another thing, which I did just tell you about recently, was I have reconstructed breasts, right? Mm-hmm. But I have lines across both of my breasts, and they're pretty obvious, and they show through on some clothing. So I've been getting all these ads for these things, like they're called cakes, or the ones I got were Go Nipless. But they're basically silicone, just round silicone covers. They're meant to cover nipples, but they're great for covering enough of the line that it doesn't show through a shirt anymore. Mm-hmm. So I've been super excited about those. I definitely think we need to find a company that will make them a little bit more like in the shape that would be great for those of us who do have reconstructed breast. I think it's such... people always assume that when you have reconstruction that you have like these beautiful breasts underneath, and I don't think that's generally the case, especially with a mastectomy type of situation. So anyway, another just thing that I found recently that just makes me feel a little bit better about what I'm wearing, what I'm doing in my life. So other than that, I launched Wish Yourself Well. And that we'll do Monday episodes. They'll be short, kind of like Monday Motivations were. But please join us over there. It is just going to not be as cancer focused, but we'll be talking about kind of, the thoughts in your head and how to use them to your advantage. And then... Which
is your forte. I mean, I think you're very, very good at that in the cancer realm, but what makes, I think, you special, I've said this a bunch of times, is that mental attitude towards things. And you bringing that over to women in general, and how to be strong and how to wish yourself well in doing that. I think that is what you've been put on this earth to do. I do believe that.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. I just think that there's a bit bigger audience than just those of us that live with cancer that struggle kind of with all of these things, right? Mm-hmm. And it's
women in general,
the ideas that we grew up with, and the boxes that we've been put in, and all of those things. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. Mm-hmm. But other than that,
and you're working on
Part two of the 5 to Thrive guide. So I'm hopeful that will be out soon. And if you can continue to share the fact that the guide is out and available for purchase, that would be awesome. I just feel so strongly. I know that like diagnosis to treatment, this part 1 guide, I know that sometimes it's a short period of time, you guys, but it is just such an impactful one.
They know.
And I know you know that. So
They know. The people listening to this know that time was.
So
hell,
how do
and
we
didn't know what to do?
Yeah. So
We were
how do we
spinning.
get that in the hands of people who can then get it in other people's hands?
Well, that's the key.
fast?
I think just people knowing about it right now.
Yep.
And understanding it's out there. I know some of you have already downloaded this.
Yeah.
But if you haven't, and 6 months down the road or something, a friend of yours or somebody gets diagnosed, this is, I think, going to be one of the most valuable tools to put in their hands to make them
feel seen.
Oh, I don't even know what the right word is. To make them be able to take a breath and have a plan instead of constant freak out in on Google of what do I do? Because we all know that, oh, Lord, that can take you down a wrong path. And this is just, I just think back and go, if you would have had this, it brings everything into one location and it's awesome. So.
Yep. So part 2 is coming out soon, treatment, and then we'll do a part 3 probably in October. And that's exciting too, because that's where a lot of us live, is in this world.
Probably most people listening right now is in that part 3.
Yep. So you guys rock. We definitely are seeing the numbers keep going up in terms of people listening, and it's awesome.
Yep.
So, okay. Cool. We'll see you next week.
Yep.